To all of the faithful out there, I finally did it, y'all. I finally did it. I got video. I got the video. So starting with this episode, I'm going to try my best to make sure that all the videos moving forward have video. And, you know, we're going to experiment a little bit. I'm going to maybe have better quality here, better quality there, here and there. But it's a growing thing. We're going to keep getting better, and we're going to just keep going. But the important part about that, the fact that I have video now, is that I decided to make it a little bit special for this one. I know so far we have been doing a lot of professional wrestling, but I promised you guys I will be bringing the movie reviews as well. And today is going to be that very first episode where we are doing movies. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Melanie of Midnight Screaming, whose links you're going to be able to find below. Make sure to subscribe to her and check out her content and listen to our conversation about The Sixth Sense. Enjoy. Welcome to the first video episode of the Miss Retrospective. I'm so excited to do this finally. And what better way to do a first video episode than with a movie? I know you guys are going to see that in the background. It's going to keep switching back and forth between me and my logo and all that stuff and the movie that we're covering. But before we get into that, I've got a very special guest here with me. We have actually known each other for north of, I want to say, 7 years now. And the funny thing is that we met because I loved your costume for trivia where I host, and you were dressed as Drew Barrymore from Scream. I still have that picture on my phone, and so it literally lives there, and I like showing it to people because it's like the coolest thing ever. And I said, hey, that's a great costume, and then, you know, it all kind of go from there. But Melanie of Midnight Screaming, welcome to the Miss Retrospective. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to have you here. And I honestly couldn't think of a better movie for us to be covering for our first episode here in the podcast. But before we get into all that stuff, let the people know a little bit about yourself. That way they kind of get an idea of, you know, what your content is about, what your past is in movies and everything. And, you know, just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I love movies. I love film. I love horror movies specifically. So I love geeking out over all sorts of different movies. I'm really getting into like going to film festivals recently and talking to different filmmakers. That's what my channel kind of focuses on right now. Just kind of movie reviews, talking to different people involved and just making movies.
What have you seen in the film circuit right now that's kind of like maybe underneath the radar that we don't know about?
Oh my gosh. There's one movie that is going to be coming out that just got picked up by Neon, I think, called Obsession.
Okay.
Curry Barker. So good. Look out for Obsession. That's a great horror movie.
So Neon is kind of on a, like, I don't want to say on a trend with me, but I got caught by the marketing machine, if you will, by Neon. Because at first, long legs, obviously. That's like their magnum opus so far. And then I loved the monkey, but that's just because I loved Osgood Perkins after literally the one I just said. And then now Keeper is kind of like, that seems like it's going to be like that next macabre story. And then obviously most recently not Osgood Perkins was Shelby Oaks.
Oh yes.
I thought Shelby Oaks was going to be like a masterpiece of a movie, and I was like going to be high tier, like scary as all get out. All my friends were like, dude, you're just building this up. I'm like, but I'm scared. And when I saw it, I was with two other people and they were at a different row, so it wasn't even my friends. I went to go see it by myself. They walked out like 40 minutes into the movie.
Oh, wow.
So then I was there by myself.
Oh, no.
I don't like being in dark rooms by myself. And I sucked it up. And I was like, this hurts and it's fine. But I was terrified. But I stuck it through. Yeah. And, you know, Shelby Oaks was fine. So the fact that it got picked up by Neon, I'm excited. Yeah. Because Neon has been on a roll as of late. Yeah. I also know a movie that I got hyped up before it actually got a wide release was Good Boy. Because I heard about it through the Dead Meat podcast. Because they did an episode where I think they went to the film festival in Colorado, the one at the Overlook Hotel. And that's when they're like, oh, we saw this. It was okay. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to tamper my expectations. But now that it came out, a lot of people loved it. Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yes, I loved it, yeah.
Okay. And I watched a video on it yesterday from Amanda the Jedi. So that's the extent of my knowledge of the movie, which she goes into detail about a lot of stuff. So I may have already seen the movie, but I still want to experience it myself. Yeah. But anyways, so to get to what we're talking about today, as you guys know here on the Miss Retrospective, we talk about movies or basically, you know, anything that I haven't seen yet. And kind of, you know, to catch up on it, we've been doing a lot of wrestling. So we're going to be talking about The Sixth Sense. And I've never seen it. It is still a movie that has been, you know, it's been my blind spot. And I've been wanting to see it, but unfortunately, I just haven't had a chance. I had never watched it. And I'm going to preface this by saying that I know the twist.
Yeah.
It is one of the most famous twists in cinema. It is, if I'm not mistaken, what got M. Night Shyamalan started into what he does now. And obviously, Signs follows after this. Not directly after, but it's like one of the ones that he did really well in. Old is another one. Split. Unbreakable, I think, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So he has that that tendency to create a story that has an insane twist. So this was actually the first time that he subjected people to that. So how old were you when this movie came out, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 9 years old.
Okay, so do you remember watching it back then, or did you watch it later?
I watched it later. I remember when I was 9 years old, I ruined a sleepover because a group of my friends wanted to watch it. And I was like, I'm too young to see this movie. It's too scary. And everyone hated me. And they when I fell asleep, some stuff happened to me at that sleepover. So I did not see it until I was 20 years old.
Okay. So you're kind of coming from the same perspective that I am a little bit. But you've already seen it before, so you already know exactly what it is. And again, you're like me. You just love movies and you just want to talk about it and everything. So what was your first experience watching this movie like? If you remember that when you were 20 years old?
I mean, I was like you. I knew what the twist was because it's just so ingrained in pop culture. Like, I feel like if you've never even heard the movie, you probably know what the twist, but even watching it, knowing what the twist was, it's just such a fantastic film. And there's so many little things that it even takes like a second watch to pick up on. It's just, I think M. Night Shyamalan did a wonderful job with this film. Just his directorial style. It's like, I think this is his best film.
And I mean, I wouldn't argue with that at all, because I haven't seen Knock at the Cabin yet, but I've heard that that's also another very divisive one.
Yeah.
Old was also divisive. Signs is probably another one that a lot of people really liked. And it's just what other movies? Trap. I was like, I'm not a Trap guy.
No, me neither. No, I mean, he did The Village.
Yeah.
The Visit, the one with the old couple.
I did see that one.
Yeah.
I did see that one. Split. That one's
Split
incredible.
that
I
was great.
do love that one. That was, I think, my first actual M. Night Shyamalan movie that I watched. And it's funny, too, because, like, I didn't realize, and I'm going to kind of, like, steer a little bit in a different direction here. I texted my friend about this movie as I was watching it. I didn't realize how much that little kid from Scary Movie 3 was modeled after this kid. And I was like, I have such an appreciation, a different appreciation for the movie, because that's probably my favorite one. Okay. 1 and 2 are, a little bit raunchier than, others and whatever, but I love slapstick comedy, and that's kind of where they went for Scary Movie 3. So that's always had a soft spot in my heart, because I also hate The Ring because it scares the crap out of me. Yeah. And that one kind of like made it easier to watch because it, obviously changed it a little bit. But yeah, I have a whole different appreciation for it. And, they also parody Signs. So now I'm starting to think that Scary Movie 3 was just an M. Night Shyamalan love letter, kind of, a little bit. But yeah, so, okay. Now we're going to get into the actual movie and everything. So for anybody that hasn't seen it, spoilers ahead. And, I'm sorry that we're about to spoil a 30-year-old movie for you, but that's okay. I spoil a 30-year-old movie for me. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it, because, again, we want to support filmmakers here. Whether they came out 30, 40 years ago, doesn't matter. Support film. Movies are fantastic. So to start out, we start with the credits immediately. And one thing that I did not know about this movie, Toni Collette was in it.
Yes.
I saw her name, and I immediately, on my notes right here, Toni Collette with 6 different exclamation marks. Oh, I was so excited. And I later found out, because she was much younger, so I didn't know what she looked like and stuff. And I found out that she's the mom. Yep. And one of my favorite horror movies is Hereditary. So I was like, oh God, no, we're not doing this again. So was Toni Collette a big name back then as well already, or?
Yes, I think this was shortly after Muriel's Wedding. Muriel's Wedding was wonderful. I love that movie so much. And so I think she was just kind of getting on the scene. And so, I mean, I think she was nominated for an Oscar for that previous role. So I think she was well known.
Heck yeah.
I don't know. I do think it's funny. Like, she said that a lot of weird things happened on the set of filming this. Like, she said she kept waking up and the clock would have double numbers the whole time while filming this movie. So she would wake up and it'd be 2:22 or 3:33. And so, I don't know. I just love her so much.
I'm scared now because I do know that, I've heard stories of on set of other people filming other types of horror movies, which is funny to call this a horror movie because I feel like it's an entry-level horror movie but it's a horror movie nonetheless. But I've heard all the horror stories, obviously, about The Exorcist, but then also, the director did some questionable things to get the shots that he wanted and whatnot. But every time I hear about, any kind of stories in a horror movie, I'm just like, I don't. I don't want to attract any of that energy towards me because I'm not. That's not what I want to do. But did you know anything else that she may have seen that's like just kind of story related?
About Toni Collette.
Yeah, from
I
the
don't
set
know.
specifically.
I think the only other thing I read was that she didn't initially know that this was a horror movie when she signed up for it. So, like, that was kind of a shot. And also, one thing to note, she was bald when she auditioned for this film.
Okay.
She had no hair. And so Shyamalan was like, I really want her in this role. And he was really hoping that the studio wouldn't see her audition tape because she was bald. But thankfully, they didn't watch the tape, and she just wore a wig.
Heck yeah.
So I'm like, that's so funny.
She deserves this role. She deserves every role. She deserves an Oscar for Hereditary. But that's gonna be my hot take. You guys are gonna hear me mention that at least once an episode whenever we talk about movies, because Toni Collette definitely deserves an Oscar for that Hereditary performance. So as soon as I saw M. Night Shyamalan in the credits, obviously I knew he was the director, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. Because one thing that I've always heard about the way that he makes movies and just writes dialogue is that the dialogue's just weird. It doesn't sound human. And that's something that I told my wife, and she was like, holy crap, you're right. Because we watched Trap recently, and she's like, that does not sound human. And, it was kind of funny to just kind of pick at it and everything. But that didn't happen in this movie. Like, it actually sounded like, functioning, normal talking and everything. So the opening scene, we see that they're drinking wine. They're setting the stage for Malcolm, I forget his last name, being the getting an award from the mayor for being a really good psychiatrist in his field for for children and everything, and he gets that plaque. And then we see somebody that breaks into the apartment with him and his wife. And this guy is just a troubled person. And if I'm picking up correctly, that was a former patient of his that he couldn't remember, right?
Yes, Vincent. Yes,
Okay.
we find out later.
Okay, so it was a troubled guy. And, he just shows up, and he's just like, he's in a panicked state, almost like, manic and everything. And then he pulls out a gun, and then he shoots Malcolm. And then, he does what he does in the bathroom. And then he just, decides to just no longer be here. And that's kind of what sets off everything in motion. So then we see that happen. And one thing that I actually really like to note right out of the gate was that there could have potentially been something in that house already. Because when she goes into the cellar, the wife goes into the cellar, she breathes out and it's cold.
Yeah. And
that's kind of like a sign that they play with throughout the rest of the movie. There's a ghost nearby.
Yeah.
So is it is that kind of like, do you think, setting the stage for like this is a world of ghosts and stuff? Or
yeah, I think so. And I was wondering that earlier because I was rewatching the film, and I was wondering, do you see her breath because Vincent is in the house already and there are ghosts near him? And we know that when you see their breath, the ghost is like
nearby.
Yeah, and angry perchance. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. But I've seen some people online theorize that maybe she can see ghosts, but I'm like, I don't think that's the case. I think it's because Vincent is there.
I like that, actually, because I didn't even put that together until you just said that right now. Because, again, we learned more about Vincent's story a little bit later in the movie. And, he kind of had the same stuff that the kid was going through as well throughout the movie.
And one thing to note, his hair, there's that patch of gray in his hair, just like little Cole. I think that's really interesting.
Oh, snap. You're right. See, it's little details like that. I like talking about movies because then you just figure out details that you may have missed on the first viewing. And the funny thing is, as soon as this movie ended, I was like, I kind of want to watch it again because there's little things that I was like, I see this. Maybe this is this. And I'll talk about it in a little bit too when we get later into the movie, because there's one small detail that I was going to ask you about. So we'll get there in a second. Okay. That happens in the place. Vincent's no longer, with us. And then the scene fades to black, which I was telling Heather, there was a really funny detail that you don't really see that in movies anymore. There's no fade to blacks. There's no fade to whites. There's no everything's like a cut shot to some scenery or something to reset the stage or something. And she's like, movies have evolved a lot, haven't they? It's like, yeah, because it's taboo now to do fade to blacks or anything unless you're signifying the end of a chapter and then starting something new or something like that. So we fade to black, and we go immediately to 8 months later, where we see Dr. Malcolm outside of Cole's house. And from here, it's because Malcolm kind of saw this kid and he saw a lot of Vincent in this kid and he wanted to help him.
Yeah.
That's what we're led to believe.
Yes.
But obviously we know what's going to happen at the end, and we're going to keep it spoiler free on that section for now until we get to the end. So he follows him to the school, I think, or he follows him
to a church.
He follows him to a church,
Yeah.
right? And so was well, I guess maybe later, but was there a significance to him going to the church?
Yeah, so when he gets to the church, we see him kind of pocket that, like, I think, what was it, like a figure of Jesus
Yeah.
or Mary or something, you know? And so I think Cole is trying to find things to help him with his fear. And so, like, clinging on to, like, religion, perchance, like, maybe that will help, because he clearly he's in tune with some things, like, in the spirit world, you know? And so I think that's probably why he goes to the church, you know? He's looking for something for comfort. I don't know.
So they talk, and he gives them a phrase in Latin.
Yes.
And I did not write down the phrase, but I like how from right out of the gate there's signs that something happened in the apartment.
Yes.
Because Cole is talking to him, and then one line immediately I was like, this is like foreshadowing. It's like, am I gonna see you again? And it's like, yeah, you're gonna see me as long as you want to see me. I'm like, he knows who he knows what he is, I think.
Yes.
And that's kind of like the mystery built up towards the entire thing. And that as soon as he said that line, I was like, I'm just gonna write it down here, because again, that's just like epic foreshadowing for everything.
Yeah.
And the story that we're being presented from Malcolm's side, whenever he's with the wife and everything, they kind of seem to have a strained marriage.
Yes.
Because she just doesn't talk to him. She's very distant, and he keeps apologizing. It's like things haven't been the same since that night. And, you know, that's kind of like their little side story. So that kind of like happens in sections throughout the movie. So I'm just going to mention it now. That way we know that, you know, we're not going to keep going back and forth between those scenes and everything. And then we go back to the house where we see Toni Collette, the mom, kind of, you know, going through her daily routine with Cole, making sure that he gets fed, making sure that, you know, he goes to school and everything. And I like how this wasn't like a typical jump scare. Like there was no build up, nothing like that. She comes in, closes the last drawer that was out, gives Cole food, goes over to the washer and dryer and everything, which, by the way, adorable husky puppy that's in the movie. I love how I wrote in my notes, it's like, this husky puppy is a terrible actor, because that is not how huskies act. I had a husky in my house once. He destroyed my entire house, and unfortunately, he had to move to a farm. And not that way. Not that way. No, not that way. I promise. He actually lives in a farm now, and he's a happy dog. But yeah, so then she comes back, and then all the drawers and everything is just completely busted out, and there was no loud sound, there was no build up, nothing. It's just like her jolt, like ah. And I think that was a pretty effective jump scare, just again to set the tone for it being a horror movie, because at this point you still don't know what's going on. And then Cole leaves, and then there's like a handprint on the table, which again I think that really sets the tone really well for there being a temperature shift whenever there's a ghost around. So as we learn more about the apartment, how many ghosts do you think were in that place?
Well, I feel like we see at least 4, right? Or maybe 3 or 4. I don't know. We see definitely 3. So, I mean, you kind of wonder, do ghosts come visit Cole because they know he's there just to... I'm sorry, I'm spoiling it.
It's all good. It's all good. We're all over the place. We're in spoiler territory.
But, like, I'm assuming, like, because, like, Misha Barton's character, the little girl that we see later on, like, she clearly didn't live in that apartment, so she clearly came and sought him out. So
that's true.
He's probably just constantly being visited,
That's true.
I don't know.
I did like that. That little side story, would like to wrap up the story later on, was really, really well done. I really liked it. It was probably my favorite part of the whole movie, because it was so sentimental and everything, like when they're watching the tape and everything.
Yeah.
But we'll for sure get there. Okay, so this is actually something I wanted to ask you. I've seen comments that Haley Joel Osment was a terrible kid actor. I disagree.
He's phenomenal in this
Okay,
movie.
I'm glad we agree, because I actually thought he was a really, really good kid actor.
Yeah.
Especially with how young he was.
Yes.
And especially now that I know how his career has gone and everything. I thought he did a fantastic job here. I think he was obviously adorable as hell because he was just a kid and everything.
Yeah.
But for what was asked of him to basically carry the movie along with Bruce Willis was a huge task.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he was more than up to the entire task.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he was nominated for an Academy Award for that role. So,
He
like,
did?
yeah.
Oh,
so,
hell yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
he was
cool.
fantastic in that movie.
I had no idea he won a role, or he won the award for that. See, Toni Collette should have got one too.
Well, see, they were both nominated. Neither one won, but like they were both nominated. Bruce Willis was not nominated though. But like Tony did a wonderful job as well. Like this cast is amazing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I mean, it just the whole story as it progresses just keeps getting better and better. So let me see okay. So then after that, we see Cole go to school with a kid. Who was this kid?
Tommy.
Yeah. So who was he?
I mean, we learned like he's this kind of his little punk that's like a kid actor. He got like a cough syrup commercial, and I guess like he was asked to kind of like be his buddy.
Gotcha.
And so we see
okay.
him kind of acting in front of the window, like, hey, to his
Gotcha,
mom.
okay.
And then,
I guess I didn't put that together because for some reason I thought that was like his cousin or something that was walking him to school.
No, I mean, he might be. I don't know. But I think like they made some comment about how like he was asked to like take care of Cole.
Gotcha.
So he puts on
Okay.
a little show in front of the window for his mom, and then
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So he takes him to school, and then Cole ends up coming back because I don't think that's the scene with the teacher yet. So Cole ends up coming back, and that's the first time we see Toni Collette and Bruce Willis together in a scene.
Yeah.
But again, she kind of looks like it looks like they're finishing a conversation from our point of view.
Yes.
And then Cole comes in, and then she goes to make food, and they play that game with the questions. I really like this scene because it starts building that relationship between the two characters.
Yeah.
And overall, I just think it really started like, breaking the ice between the two.
Yeah.
Because before then, Bruce Willis was kind of just, not really... he was still trying to get his trust, and he started doing some research on the stuff that Cole had told him in the church and everything with the land and whatnot, and trying to figure out exactly what that meant. But then that scene questioning, like every question that I ask you, you get closer to the chair, and then we talk. Other than that, get closer to the door, and then you can leave. I like how you see Cole's apprehension to want to trust him, and again, it kind of leads to the twist later on too. It was like, should I trust this person? Is he here to hurt me? Is he not here to hurt me? And I just overall like the body language and everything too, because coming from obviously professional wrestling, that's another thing that I talk about on this podcast. I love that portion of it because body language is everything. I could tell you one thing, but my body language could be saying another thing. And just even taking one step as slow as he did, just slowly, and just all the way his shoulders were always up and everything. I was like, he's scared. Yeah. You can tell he's scared. So shouts out to Haley Joel Osment to be able to do that at such a young age and have such amazing just acting prowess. So yeah, that scene was really cool. I really liked it. And then we fade to black to transition into the anniversary dinner, which we already talked about a little bit earlier, which again seems kind of just like a cold, no pun intended, encounter between Bruce Willis and his wife. Then after that, okay, so this was kind of just a silly comment that I made to Heather when I was watching this movie with her. When we come back again between Dr. Malcolm and Cole, they're just walking down the street and they're just talking. They're starting to get to know each other a little bit better and whatnot. I cracked up because I'm like, what kind of psychologist just walks with their kid, like the kid that they're helping in the middle of a street?
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's Philly. I don't know what they do in Philly. I'm from Texas. Yeah, this scene also kind of starts showing that Cole's defenses are starting to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I guess from that perspective, I kind of get it. Like he's still apprehensive because he doesn't know who this guy is, and it's just, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
And we learn a little bit more about Bruce Willis's past as a psychiatrist, because I think this is when he tells Cole that the mayor gave him a plaque and that you're really good at what he does.
Yeah. One thing I loved about the previous scene too, when they're playing that game, I think you learn a lot about Cole in that moment, because I feel like Malcolm is assuming certain things about him, like in regards to like his father, and you learn a little bit more about like Cole's father and how like completely absent he was.
Yeah.
Like you learn like about the glasses he was wearing with no lenses. His dad just forgot it when he left, and so like he just is wearing them, and like even I don't know. One thing I also love about that earlier scene, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards.
No, all good. Take it wherever you want to go.
Or when he's talking with his mother when he gets home that day before that game even starts, like they play that little thing where she's like, well, today I won the lottery and then I had a picnic. What did you do? And he's like, well, I got picked first for kickball. And so like they're playing this cute little like, this is my little fantasy. And like I just love that establishing moment, because you can tell his mom cares so deeply for him. and she doesn't quite know exactly how bullied he is in school and kind of how fragile his like mental state is in that moment. But there's so many little sweet moments throughout the movie to establish that bond. And like later on in the movie, we see him riding in a grocery cart with her, and he just like closes his eyes and he's just enjoying the freedom moment. There's so many sweet moments in this movie that establish like those bonds between the characters, and even just like Malcolm and Cole like walking together, like they're building those bonds of trust in those moments. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah. The funny that you mentioned the cart scene too, because that was a moment where I also made a really silly joke when watching the movie with Heather, because it was like a very Titanic scene. It's like, I'm king of the world.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do that. And I told her, it's like, hey, can we go to HEB and, you know, put me in a cart? And she's like, I don't think I can push you. I was like, you're right. You're right. But yeah, no, you're right. Actually, like that's something that I guess I didn't pick up on from my point of view. Like, you know, those sweet moments between, you know, mother and child and everything. The one thing I did connect with was the dad thing, because that's obviously that's what happened to me too. You know, my dad ended up leaving, and I was like, as a young kid, I'm like, I just want, you know, I want my dad to be here. I want him to do all this stuff. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, my dad kind of sucks. And, you know, but I do remember that when I was a young kid, I was like, I want to be everything my dad is. So like whatever he leaves behind and everything. So like I didn't even, I guess like my blinders was just like, nope, emotional blinders going up. I'm not going to remember this. But now that you mentioned, I was like, oh God, that's exactly what he was doing. But it's all good. No, that's good. That's why we watch movies, right? Okay, so let's see the writing on the paper. That's when Toni Collette's cleaning up the house, and we see all the writing on the paper in the red letters and everything. Did Cole write all of that?
I was wondering that too. Like, I don't know. Do you think something wrote on the paper for him, or do you think he wrote it? Like, was he listening to someone, or was someone writing it through him?
So that's, I mean, if it wasn't established in the movie, then I guess that's kind of left to interpretation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, do we ever see Cole's? And we see his pictures.
Yeah.
But we don't ever see his handwriting. I don't think.
I don't think so. No. But I mean, like, we know later on in the movie, it's established like a ghost can physically harm him. A ghost can physically hand him objects. So you kind of wonder, did a ghost like physically write something like that? I don't know. But like one thing about the photos, I think that's a wonderful scene when Toni Collette is looking at the photo collage and you see that little light on every single photo around Cole. So like she knows like something's going on, you know?
And she just doesn't know because Cole doesn't trust her to be able to say stuff, because Cole doesn't even trust Dr. Malcolm to say anything until later when something like actually hits the fan, and it's like, holy crap, okay, this is getting intense. So this is when we go into the teacher scene, and this is where Stuttering Stanley comes about, and I hated this teacher. Like, I understand sometimes you're gonna have like a difficult kid and they're probably gonna be a bit of a jerk. Sure, I get that, but at no point should you ever like treat a child the way that he treated Cole, because no matter what he's going through, like, dude, you're there to teach, you're there to help. So that was really tough. But then we also hear about the history of the school, that it used to be a prison where people went to, you know, have served their sentences, and then unfortunately some people were hung, and you know that we actually see that later on in the movie, and that caught me off guard, because I was like, okay, I did not expect to see that at all, and it was just kind of like random, not in the sense of like it just came out of nowhere, more in the sense of like it just kind of like jump scary kind of a little bit. And so the condescending teacher, I didn't like him that much, but he served a purpose, which was, you know, to show that the ghosts are able to tell Cole about things that he shouldn't know about. So like things from the past, which if I'm not mistaken, Stanley did used to go to that school when he was younger. And that's where, you know, where the stutter comes from, and the Stuttering Stanley. Something that also did make me sad was that the word freak is used very passively to describe Cole. And obviously, like, we're in a much different age now than then. And just hearing that word over and over, it's like, you think I'm a freak? I was like, Cole, you're adorable. Stop calling yourself that. The word freak, obviously, I don't think is used as frequently nowadays to describe people. I've also grown averse to just not liking the word crazy either, because I feel like there's a lot that goes behind that, and just, you know, different situations and whatnot. But again, just hearing something just as passive as the word freak, that's like, you know, not considered as terms, like, it makes me think of like what other words that like make me feel uncomfortable as I'm watching older movies. Obviously, I want to see like what other words I'm like, what would kind of like not trigger me, but just be like, I don't like this word. It makes me feel icky. Okay, so then after that, we go into the magic trick scene. And this is where Dr. Malcolm is showing Cole a trick, because Cole was put in detention, I assume, after, the stuttering Stanley thing. And the trick was with a penny. And I feel like this penny was very important to come to like play into themes later on and whatnot. And so we see the trick where he puts it from one hand to another, and then he puts it in a pocket, but then it comes back into his other hand. And then Cole says that it's a funny trick. It's not a very good trick. Was there some kind of semblance or like a theme to that I may have missed potentially, or?
I don't know. The only thing I'd add to this scene is not even really truly about this scene. One funny piece of trivia I read was that Michael Cera auditioned for Cole, and he it was that scene in particular, and he didn't realize like the gravity of the scene, and he played it off like this is super fun trick, and he did not get the role, and so he did not understand what the movie was about. But I'm like, how different would that be if Michael Cera was Cole? That would be very strange.
Maybe eventually we would have seen Haley Joel Osment as Scott Pilgrim. Who knows?
Maybe we could have lived totally different
We would have
lives.
just completely flipped everything. Then let's see, what else would we have seen Michael Cera in? We would have seen him in Blink Twice.
Oh yeah.
He would have been the voice of Sora in Kingdom Hearts. What else has Haley Joel Osment been in that's like massive? We would have seen Haley Joel Osment in Running Man coming up in a few weeks here. I'm really excited for that movie.
Me too. I can't wait.
I love Edgar Wright. But yeah, that's actually kind of insane to think about, that Michael Cera could have been the one that ended up with this role. Like, that's kind of insane, because he's such an awkward kid, even in his breakout role in Superbad. That's just crazy to think about, but that's good trivia. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this now, because this is... Oh, wait, hold on. I missed something. So after the magic trick scene, we see Bruce Willis go back to his apartment, and he sees that his wife is taking antidepressants, which, again, this is building up to that reveal towards the end and everything. But I like the fact that it wasn't played off as like a mean thing either. Because, antidepressants are very common, very normal. And I feel like back in this day and age, it could have very easily been played as something mean. But again, it builds that secondary story that we believe we're seeing of her, kind of just being distant and just cold because of, just something happened that night that could have, potentially fractured the relationship and stuff. So I like how they're dropping hints that could be perception's reality, right? So our perception is they're just having a rough patch throughout this stuff.
Yeah, and we see as he comes home multiple times, he comes home to their wedding video being on the TV. So, like, something's wrong, but clearly, like, there's still something there, you know? So it's confusing at first. Like,
I don't know if it happens here or later, when he comes in and she's sleeping on the couch, but then the penny drops from one side to another. That's why I was like, is there a significance to the penny from the magic trick and stuff? Because I wasn't sure if that was like maybe something that I missed that I was doing on my first watch. Because I was like, it's significant the fact that he's doing a magic trick with a penny, and now a penny falls from one side to the other. And then later on, it's also like a ring too, the wedding ring.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe there's something here that I missed. I don't know. So to talk about something that I noticed, and this was before obviously like the reveal and everything, right? The wine cellar has a red knob. And I was like, they focused on that for a while, and he couldn't open it. He continues to try and open it, and he couldn't. And then later on, and I'm going to skip a little bit forward, he tries to open the door twice, fails twice, and then it looks like he's getting his keys, but we never really see him go into the room. Later on, we see Cole go into a tent that's red, and apparently from our point of view, ghosts can't get past that. So again, now I'm just gonna say spoiler, fuck it. But Bruce Willis is a ghost, guys. I'm sorry, I spoiled a 40-year-old movie for you guys. But is there a significance to the red? Like, can't ghosts cross red? Because then Cole is also wearing red, and that when he and the scene later on, whenever he has the red sweater on and he gets pulled up to the room upstairs in the house of the spiral staircase and everything. He's wearing the red sweater, but then it has the cuts on the back and everything. So do you think maybe that's like a shield against ghosts or something? Or
I don't know. So what I picked up from those two scenes is something totally like they don't relate to each other. Like
Yeah.
for instance, like the tent, you know, we see inside the tent like all of the like little like religious figures. He's
Yeah.
lined around the tent, and so I took it to mean like maybe he was being protected or something in that tent by like these religious, you know, things. And then like, but I mean, like it could be the color. I don't know. But like when it comes to the cellar, for instance, there's that line later on where Cole talks about like ghosts see only what they want to see, and so you see like multiple scenes. Bruce Willis, his character just goes to that door, opens it, it won't open, takes a couple tries, he gets down there, and then at the end of the movie, you see there's a table, that clearly has been there, you know, and so you wonder, was he just not seeing that table? Because like maybe his wife was blocking off that area because it's significant to him. I don't know, but like maybe it is the color red. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I felt it was just very prominent that's like, because with filmmaking usually you want to have the focus on the center of the frame, and it's rare when filmmakers create a scene with like empty space over here and then the two people over here, because then it makes you feel like, should I be paying attention over here? Should I be paying attention over here? And like, you know, divides the focus, right? So every single time something is like center frame, I'm like, that means something. That's gotta mean something. Like for example, the one movie that does fantastically is Invisible Man. The 2020 remake, 2021, I forget when it came out. The feeling of like the frame is stationary, and then you see I forget her name, going through the scene and everything, and you're going through the kitchen and everything, but it feels like there's something there with her, and you don't know what's in there with her because you can't see it, obviously, the Invisible Man. And so it creates that paranoia and everything, and I was like, I want the frame to move so I can follow her, but I can't because that's done by design to make you feel like there's something there. So I feel like that's kind of why I kind of paid attention to it. I was like, what's the significance of the red knob? Because it's like, it's also a very prominent color that a door handle normally wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
then I started picking up on the color being there. And something also that I like to point out was from the Dead Meat podcast. Chelsea talks a lot about color theory. So that's probably something I'm going to have to like dig into just a little bit more, because it got me very interested why the color red was so prominent in the scene. Like even our chairs are red. So I'm just seeing the color red everywhere. Okay, so...
That's cool. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So this is when we see the scene of Cole's invited to the party, and the kids are jerks to him, and they it gets to the point where he hears something upstairs at the top of the spiral staircase, and when he gets to the top, something's beckoning him towards this dark area of the house. And then the kids, you hear them downstairs like, oh yeah, we were forced to invite him because, you know, he's weird, he's a freak, and, you know, we were just kind of forced to invite him. And I'm like, that's kind of sad, and I kind of hate that, but, you know, it is what it is. So then they see that Cole is drawn by something in this dark room, and then they go up the spiral staircase, and they're like, we're gonna play a game. It's called, I forget what the game's called.
Locked in the Dungeon.
Yeah, Locked in the Dungeon. There you go. And so they push him in the room, and then they lock him in there with something, which we never see. That's something that I also really liked. Before we get the reveal of what's happening, you just hear things, but you don't see things. So it kind of like builds that mystery of like, is this one thing? Is this several things? And, you know, it was a really cool build-up moment, which again, the kid sees ghosts, and it's just... it was a nice touch to the buildup, which again, for this movie being as, you know, I don't want to say as old as it was, because holy crap, it just makes me feel old. But to tell the story so efficiently, well, even if you know the twist, it's such a good movie by, you know, building up that tension. So Cole is shoved in there, and then he starts shouting. His mom hears him, goes upstairs, literally runs upstairs, tries to open the door, but she can't open it. And then the door finally unlatches, and she opens it, and then she pulls Cole out, and she doesn't notice this till later. But, you know, Cole's hurt. He got attacked by something, which again lends us to think that all the ghosts could potentially be evil. We don't know. And, you know, later we find out that there's some nice ones out there too. But I think this was also, again, a really great scene to signify that there's a malicious something out there that could potentially be looking to hurt him.
And even to talk about like the color red, he's following a red balloon up to the door.
Yeah,
So
see,
like there's the color red again.
Red's everywhere. I actually made a joke with Heather about that. I was like, it's Pennywise. I need to watch Welcome to Derry. I still do.
So good.
I'm going to watch that. I'm going to do an episode on it. We'll see about that. But yeah, okay. So then the kids, they play Locked in the Dungeon. And then after that, we have our first M. Night Shyamalan sighting because he's the doctor. He's got to do cameos in all of his movies, which I think is an absolute delight because the man just loves being a cameo in his own movies until he played a more prominent role in Old. But no spoilers for that here yet. Anyway, so M. Night Shyamalan, the doctor, tells Toni Collette what's going on, that he I forget what the full thing was. Do you remember what the full thing was?
I think he just talks about the wounds on his body, and she at first says, "Oh, well, it's because of sports," and he insinuates like I think it's that something at home, you know. And so that's heartbreaking because you see her going like, "Do you think I did this to my kid?" You know, I don't know. It's just you feel so bad for her because she knows something's terribly wrong, and then now there's physical evidence to show like something terrible happened. You know, I don't know. That's a heartbreaking scene.
Yeah, it also drives the point home again that she knows something's going on.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
And the fact that it happened outside of their house means that there's something happening with Cole as a whole. So then from there, we go into the scene where Cole is in the hospital room and Dr. Malcolm comes in, they talk, and it's the incredibly famous scene of I see dead people, which again, to build up to that moment was really well done. I thought it was fantastic. Just overall phenomenal shot. And we've seen it parodied to hell.
Yeah.
And even then, fantastic acting from Haley Joel Osment, just absolutely phenomenal acting. So I think it's fantastic to see a scene like this be able to stand the test of time, and also overall just have a classic like moment. Because like the reason I feel like scenes stand the test of time and they're able to do something so like culturally moving is just because they're so well done. They're so well acted, and again, the reveal is fantastic. We've seen, the scene with the kid, the sheets up, and is like, I see dead people. But we've never seen Bruce Willis's reaction or anything like that. So to be able to do that at such a young age is incredible.
Yes.
So revealing the secret was really well done, and even though I already knew again what the scene was and everything, it was still just an emotional scene with Bruce Willis being like, okay, I'm listening now. Like, what's happening here? And I think, again, for him, seeing Vincent in this kid was, like, really cool because it maybe could have, shattered his perception of, like, maybe I was wrong with Vincent. Because later we find out more about Vincent and everything, as the story progresses and everything. But you can see that from Bruce Willis, like, I could have made a difference had I done something different and, like, listened more to this person. So, it kind of like shatters his whole being as a doctor. Is like, I could have done something.
Yeah, and I feel like this, like a central theme in the whole movie is like, I mean, other than just like grief and loss, is communication. Because like both characters have to learn how to communicate to kind of solve their own problem.
Yeah.
And like in this moment, you see little Cole, like he's finally able and feel comfortable enough to share his secret. But there's also the hesitation because he does at first not believe Cole initially, you know, because he has to go home and rewatch that or like re-listen to that tape of Vincent. But like I really love how this movie is kind of like a love letter to therapy, and it's kind of like encouraging that communication because that is the answer to both of their problems.
Also, shout out to that scene with the tape recording, like listening back to everything, because I was fully expecting as he's turning up the volume, I was like, oh, here comes a jump scare. Here comes a jump scare. I feel it. But it was so well done again. So it was like, you just hear like a small little thing. I was like, oh, snap. Like, and again, just revealing more about what Vincent was to Dr. Malcolm, which, again, when you come back as a ghost in this movie, there's a mission that you got to fulfill. And, getting that closure for Bruce Willis was really cool, as well as he, got to learn more about Vincent and stuff. For after this scene, we see the cuts on the back of Cole, and then also on the sweater that he was wearing, the red sweater. Again, I'm going to point out red every single time I see it. And then we start seeing more of the prominence of if they're breathing and you see the breath, that it's cold, which means there's a ghost around. So this is kind of where it starts, being a lot more prominent. And this is where the ghost comes in because Cole goes to use the restroom and then something chases him down the hall and he runs into the tent. And that's kind of where that's when I noticed that I was like, red's got to mean something. But again, I'll look into it more later. But yeah, that's the first time that I see it. And it's a lady that he sees in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, we see a woman and we learn why all the drawers were open because this woman clearly, I mean, I'm assuming this woman had been, not nice things had happened to her from her husband and she had taken measures to get out.
Yeah.
And then, but she was opening all those drawers. So you're like, oh, okay. Like that makes sense, And then we see a younger boy inviting Cole to go check out his dad's collection.
Yeah.
And we learn what happened to that kid.
Yeah. Because you just see like the gigantic hole in his back. Yeah.
So like you get introduced to so many ghosts in like such a short amount of time. But then then the tent scene with Misha Barton.
Yeah. That was the interesting thing that I think, and here's my theory. So the kid with the hole in the back of his head.
Yeah.
I think that may have been potentially a malicious spirit.
Oh, really?
Because we don't see him around the tent either. But I feel like Cole felt safe to go into the tent to stay away from the ghosts because the lady from the kitchen also doesn't follow him in there.
Yeah.
And then the only one that we see is for all intents and purposes, relatively benevolent ghost, which was the little girl. And maybe that's why she was able to cross into the red threshold. And maybe that's why, Bruce Willis was also able to touch the red. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking on it too much. But, I feel like there was definitely a disconnect from like the evil ghost with the good ghost.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's why the evil ghost in the top of the house was trying to get to Cole through the, sweater and everything.
Yeah.
Because, maybe he couldn't get through the red or something. I don't know. So I have in full caps right here. It's like red tent. Can they not cross red, or are they weaker with red around? I don't know. So from here we go back to the school after we see the little girl in the tent and everything. She's like throwing up like this viscous material or something, which we find out what it is in a second. But then we go back to the school where Dr. Malcolm sees the play for the first time. I think he sees something in the play because he's in the school for a reason. Because Cole invited him to watch something, if I'm not mistaken. It was before he did the one at the end with the sword and everything. But then the big thing about this scene was when they see the people in the back where they're just like hanging out and whatnot. And that's kind of terrible to say it in that phrase or what manner, but I hope y'all know what I mean.
Yeah.
And this is where we learn who told Cole about what was going on with the whole Stuttering Stanley thing too, because that's what we see clearly that's what happened. That's why those ghosts are making themselves seen to Cole and everything. And then from there,
But I think like in this scene in particular, the doctor, Malcolm gives Cole the recommendation, like ask them what they need. And like, that's like one of the first times, like encouraging that communication.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're seeing these ghosts for a reason. Maybe they're making themselves known because they need something. And so we see Cole be very brave with the young little girl ghost. He finally asks her, do you want to tell me something? And like, that's like the first step into like finding that answer,
Yeah. Which right before this happens too is the scene with Toni Collette and Cole talking about the Bumblebee pendant.
Yes.
That was tough to watch because you can see she wants to believe him.
Yeah.
But because he doesn't feel comfortable opening up about what he's seeing and what he's experiencing, she just gets so frustrated with him. And then she sends him to bed without finishing his food. And I was like, this is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the Bumblebee pendant scene was really tough to watch for me because, like, again, just seeing households like that, they're like, parents that don't understand their children. And, she's making an effort. I will give her that. She's absolutely making an effort.
Yeah.
But it's such a tough thing to understand, which when it comes around at the end, to wrap it all up later on, was such a great scene, especially because they bring back the Bumblebee pendant story and everything of who's moving in and whatnot. But this was really tough to see, like, for the first time, not knowing what was happening. Just like, I have a sad face next to that comment on there for the Bumblebee pendant because it was really sad. And then, okay, so we see all of that stuff. And then this is where Bruce Willis goes back to visit the wife one more time, and he's angry because it looks like she's having an affair.
Yes.
And that's what, again, we believe at first. And he's angry to where he cracks the window in the apartment. And it, again, shows that he is starting to get those powers, I guess, as a ghost to physically alter stuff in the real world. Because how else would he have been able to crack the window?
Yeah.
And then, they're like, oh, what happened? It was probably just a rock or something like that flung at the window, which was really weird because it's like it had to be forceful to hit that. And then as they look, Bruce Willis is just walking around the corner, so you can clearly see that it was him. And then let me see what else comes after that. And then they talk about some magic being real. With another penny, and that's again why I was talking about the pennies, like they were prominent, and maybe they were like meaning something else. Maybe it just has to do with that, with the pennies being magic, which if you watch Final Destination, that's not true.
Oh, no.
They're evil. So we talked about the recordings, and then that's where he turns it up, and we hear not loud and clear, but we hear that faint voice of something was there with him.
Yeah.
And then I made the comment here. It says this movie is crafted so well.
It really is, yeah.
Because like everything, like it's really funny seeing movies now where a lot of people complain about movies being 2 hours being too long, but I feel like some movies earn that.
Yeah.
And then if you go back and watch older movies, it's like 90 minutes, maybe an hour 40, and this movie was an hour 40. So I was like, it's pretty good. It's pretty short.
Yeah.
But everything leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing. And it never really feels like there's wasted air.
No.
There's no shots that are like, establishing shots of any kind of, this is where we're at now. This is where we are now. Like, no, it's just flowing so nicely. Yeah. And everything leads to the next reveal, which leads to the next reveal. And, it's just done so well.
It is, yeah.
I'm obviously going to watch more M. Night Shyamalan as this podcast goes on and whatnot, but the way this movie was just put together was so tight, so well done. And it just leaves like no room for error in any sense, which no loopholes either, like no plot holes or anything like that, which again was just fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's see. After this, I think this is where the red tent falls because Cole goes in there. And that's when he sees the girl, because the tent is starting to rip from the top and whatnot. Yeah. And that's when he sees the girl and she's spitting up the stuff. And that's again when he asks the girls like, what do you want? Like what how can I help you? And we see the scene of he goes to a wake with a dead girl that just recently passed away from cancer.
Well, we don't know. So
right. So we assume that she passed away from cancer. And it's funny because like nobody questions why Cole is there.
Yeah.
Because did he even know her like at all?
I don't think so, no.
So he just a random kid showed up at a wake.
Yeah.
And this is when I made the connection to Scary Movie 3, because I was like, that's literally what happens in Scary Movie 3. They go to a wake and you just see that fake Cole in that movie, just like, you're that. And it's like, bro, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
It gave me such appreciation for that movie.
Oh, that's such a great movie.
And again, we know the twist. We know what happened with Bruce Willis, but it's like, why is a psychiatrist going with him to a funeral?
Yeah. They ride a bus together. Like, does he like that? I don't know. I saw someone make a comment about like that's what made me question him, because it's like, don't you have a car? Like, why are you on the bus? I don't know. Yeah, but no.
And I mean, especially if you got an award from the mayor, you would assume that you're making millions of dollars as a child psychiatrist. But hey, whatever. Alrighty. So then we see Cole get a tape from a room upstairs.
Yes.
Which he then tells the dad, or gives it to the dad of the kid, and it says, "This is for you." And he pops in the tape, and then we see exactly what happened, which was, I think, the mom, potentially. Okay, so it was the mom that was poisoning the kid.
Yes. And one thing I loved about, before he even goes up to the room, we overhear someone talk about how the younger sister is now starting to feel sick as well. And so him finding this tape, like he not only is helping that girl, he's helping the little sister as well. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. This stage is as yours as it is mine, so it's all good. The tape is tough to watch.
Yeah.
Like I'm into some pretty sick stuff now for horror movies, because I'm like, and my brain is like 20/20 coded with like some of the stuff that I can handle, like especially with like Saw coming out, Human Centipede and all that stuff. But there's something just about like the reality of this is what could have happened in like the 80s or 90s that is just so sick. As
we see like the Munchausen by proxy, like that's so prevalent. I feel in a lot of media right now, and like this is that. Like clearly, she was making her daughter sick for like who knows why, but like, oy.
I feel like that could be like a whole movie in its own right and everything. But that was tough to watch, and then obviously like the dad gets up from the chair and he immediately confronts her. Like that's got to be an awkward wake.
Be awful. Oh my gosh! And one thing, like the little girl says before we even get to that scene, she goes, "I'm feeling much better," and then we see that's the last word she says in that tape.
Yeah.
Before she passes, like, "I'm feeling much better," and it's like, oh my gosh, this poor little girl, you know, because we learned that she was in bed for 2 years before that, so clearly she's been poisoned for years.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Playing the slow game. The mom is. And then we get that nice little scene between Cole and the other little girl.
Yeah.
It was like, you're safe now. Like your sister, like, helped you before, like, without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so hard. That's so heartwarming and everything. And that shows us that now Cole understands that this is not a curse, but a blessing because he can continue to help people. And then I think we missed a scene here with Bruce Willis and Cole talking again in a church because he's like on a higher level.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that scene because I don't think I wrote anything about it. But what happens in that scene? Do you remember?
I mean, I think aren't they just talking more about I don't know, because I mean, I feel like Malcolm's going on that journey where he doesn't initially believe Cole, and then after the tape, he starts going on this little journey, and I think isn't it another conversation, kind of alluding to like, hey, it's real,
I think so, yeah. And it may have been here or may have been afterwards because there's one more scene that we're gonna get to here in a second, and let me see the tape in the box, and then let me see the Fire Lady ghost.
Oh yes.
Which one was this one? Oh, because it said the play. Yeah. So the Fire Lady. Hold on, I'm trying to think of the Fire Lady ghost because I literally just wrote Fire Lady ghost.
Well, I love this scene because we see it's like right before the school play starts, and we see Cole sitting there with a woman, and we don't initially see we don't initially see her face, and he's smiling, and they're talking, and it looks nice, and then the stuttering Stanley guy interrupts them, and she leaves the room, and he starts. I mean, she turns away around, and you realize, oh, she's a ghost. But this is like the first time we see Cole happy and comfortable talking to a ghost, and you realize like, oh, he's starting to learn, like, these ghosts are approaching him for a reason, for this help. And, like, and he's feeling comfortable in his role, you know?
Yeah. And then that's when Stanley says, oh, yeah, this place, burned down. And it says, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, it puts it all together. So then this is where we see, like, right after the play happens, Cole's really, really happy. He's really made a turn for everything. And, he's doing a lot better now. And this is, I feel like, where I think Cole knew that Bruce Willis was a ghost because I guess it's kind of ambiguous too because they're talking about like I'm gonna see you tomorrow, right? And it's like, well, if you want to, you can, but like it's kind of left like ambiguous to where it's like they're saying goodbye for the final time.
Yeah.
And Cole really makes it seem like he knew that Bruce Willis was a ghost the whole time.
Yeah, I believe he knew from the moment. Because, like, that's why I think he seems apprehensive when they first meet. Because, like, like, again, he has, like, am I going to see you tomorrow? Because clearly, I mean, and this might have been the first ghost that he is able to have that conversation with because he made him feel comfortable enough to, to develop that bond. But, yeah. It just, going on that journey, knowing that he might have known the whole time, and then finally Malcolm, like, we'll get to it. Sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. And do you think that this, well, I mean, at this point, I wrote here, or did Bruce Willis know and find out at that moment, but then later on we find out that he did not know at all, because then, the whole reveal happens, and they play back everything that happened throughout the movie, and, I feel like, to me, this tells me that Cole knew. And maybe, like you said, maybe he already knew from the get-go, just because of that first question right out of the gate. It's like, am I going to see you? Like, am I going to see you again? It's like, well, yeah, like, you can see me whenever you want to, whenever you feel comfortable. Because again, Bruce Willis has no idea.
Yeah.
After this, we get the most emotional scene, in my opinion, of the movie with the talk in the car, with finally figuring out where the Bumblebee pennant was, why it was being moved. because Cole finally comes clean to his mom because they're stuck in traffic because there was an accident up at the front. A lady died in a accident because she got run over by a car and a bicycle. And we see the lady right behind Cole, and then she just walks away.
Yeah.
And they talk that it was the mom, the grandma, coming to get the pendant because, you know, it was hers. And she's like, I just kept moving it because it was mine. And I really like the question that Cole is like, you're at her grave and you asked her something. And she said the answer is always, what did you ask her? And I'm not even kidding. As right before Toni Collette said, it's like, she asked her, she was proud of her.
Yeah.
I just know it. Because that's, for me, that's my question too. Like for my dad, who unfortunately passed away, I was like, it's okay. I'm getting used to it. It was 6-year anniversary 2 days ago. So, and it was on Day of the Dead, which is like a really nice way to remember for, you know, Mexico stuff and whatnot. But I thank you for your kind words. And I really like the reveal of everything, right? I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah.
The scene is so emotional. The mom now knows the secret. And, you know, that kind of really wraps up Cole's entire, you know, arc and his entire story to kind of bring everything around to, you know, put a nice little bow on it. Now we know that he's going to be helping ghosts because he no longer sees his power as a curse, but more, you know, like a blessing, because he can help more people out, especially again, such a young age to be able to do something like that is fantastic.
And I love how he opens up that conversation with saying, I'm ready to communicate with you now.
Yeah.
So it's like ties in that whole theme of communication, you know? I don't know.
She's even like, communicate.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird way to say you want to talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was phenomenal. And again, that wraps up that scene. And then we get to the reveal that Bruce Willis comes back. And Cole actually tells him, if you talk to them while they're sleeping, they'll remember you. They'll remember, or they'll hear you potentially. And then we kind of get a conversation between Bruce Willis and his wife. And that's when the ring comes down and then rolls around. And that's, again, everything gets played back where Bruce Willis was a ghost the entire time. And again, knowing the twist was, it kind of changed the perception of the movie a little bit. But just seeing it all play out and just seeing his reaction to everything, I noticed that we never see his back.
Yeah, and it's like, it goes back to what Cole said, go see what they want to see.
Yeah.
So this whole time, like, he doesn't want to recognize like what has happened to him. And then the moment he realizes, it's like, oh, I see now. Like I love that. I love that small
And
detail.
I'm going to watch it back one more time just for this alone, because again, I feel like we never saw his back because he was always wearing the coats. He was always wearing, you know, something big to cover the back.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he didn't have it, you see the back and there's the blood from where the gunshot came from and everything from the beginning of the movie, from when Vincent killed him. And overall, the reveal scene was just top notch.
Yeah.
We see the I see dead people scene parodied all the time.
Yeah.
But we never see the reveal, you know, like at all and whatnot. So overall, this movie was just fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
The way the story was set up, the way that it was blocked out, layered out, and everything. From a first watch, I hope that one day I get to sit down with somebody that does not know what it is about, and I get to watch it with them. Because the closest that I feel, and I'm going to spoil something here for people watching, and I'm sorry in advance, the closest I feel that I can get with people to experiencing that is watching a specific episode of Scrubs. Are you a Scrubs fan?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. I recently just got to watch that episode with Heather because she's going through her first view of Scrubs. And the whole time she's like, yeah, no, this is a fun episode. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And then when it got to the ending, she's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And so like it caught her off guard. So I feel like that's as close as I'm gonna get to experiencing the Sixth Sense twist with anybody. But overall, fantastic movie. And again, if I ever do rewatch it, I'm gonna pay attention to see what he's wearing, to see if we see anything from his back, from the back point of view and everything. But yeah, so that was The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
What do you think of my notes that I wrote for this movie?
I think that's great. Yeah, everything's great.
Alrighty, well, fantastic. So tell me your thoughts overall on this movie. Like, how do you feel like it holds up with cinema nowadays? Like, do you think anything could capture lightning in a bottle like this again, or?
I mean, I think this is almost a perfect film because, like, watching it now, it's been 26 years since this movie came out. I mean, I think it still holds up. The images are still, like, creepy. It's still so sentimental. Like, there's so many amazing performances in this movie that, I mean, I don't know. I love it so much. I do feel bad for M. Night Shyamalan because I feel like every single movie he makes gets tied back to this movie and compared. And I don't think he's made anything as good as this after. But I mean, like, this movie is just fantastic. The pacing, the symbolism, the script, the way he filmed everything, like the color theory, everything was so well thought out.
It's really hard to think of like your first one is such a banger that is really hard to live up to it. Another director that I feel kind of did the same thing was Ari Aster, which again, Hereditary, sensational. Midsommar, a little divisive, but I still really like it. And then Beau is Afraid, which just went off its rocker. A lot of people don't like that movie, and I understand, but I really liked it. And then Eddington, I loved Eddington. I thought it was fantastic. But again, I guess you know, it's really hard to just, you know, hit that high and then just never get close again, because you can only capture lightning in a bottle once like that. So with that said, where would you rate this out of 10? Because I always ask all my guests, like, in your own personal scale, where would you rate this out of 10?
I'd probably give this a 10 out of 10 personally, not to be like too you know, I don't know. I mean, like, I do think this is one of, like, maybe an almost perfect film.
Hell yeah. That's fantastic. Do you have any closing comments on the movie before we wrap up?
I don't know. I mean, like, go see The Sixth Sense if you haven't already. I mean, like, watch it again because it's fun to rewatch and kind of pick up on little things, you know? So, I don't know. It's a great movie.
I'm going to go on a deep dive on what the color red means in this movie, because I'm so curious, because it was so prominent. It was so prominent. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I hope you had fun.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Before we do wrap up here, is there anything that you would like to plug for your channel?
Well, if y'all don't mind checking me out on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, I'm just there under Midnight Screaming. And yeah, I don't know if you like talking about movies.
I will leave those links for you guys down below here, not just on the audio podcast, but also on YouTube. But thank you so much for joining me, truly. And thank you to Josh back here behind the scenes helping us out, getting all this set up. We'll give him a shout out as well. And thank you for being my first video guest.
Oh, no,
People will actually know what I look like now.
Oh, cool.
But honestly, truly, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everybody watching, everybody viewing, everybody listening. I will be back with more movie episodes, which I will go ahead and spoil the next one now. We're going to stay with Bruce Willis, because I'm actually going to do Die Hard next.
Oh, nice.
Not
Very
next week. But we're going to, whenever I do my next movie episode, I'm doing Die Hard. I already have a date set to record and a person to talk to about it with and whatnot. So that'll be a fun time. And I'm just going to make this a Bruce Willis podcast, because a lot of people give me crap about not watching Bruce Willis movies. And I'm also not an action guy.
Oh, okay.
So Die Hard is going to be like completely out of my wheelhouse. But I've heard it's fantastic. So we'll see how that goes. But without further ado, thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Mess Retrospective here with Kirby Carreon. And we'll see you on the next one.